Michamocha, our prayer for freedom, can be found on page 158. Just as we receive freedom, we also seek shelter and we seek healing. So the following prayer, Hashivenu, can be found on page 160. And we'll sing together the words that we've been singing together this year. Hashivenu. Shamru on page 162. I hope you've stretched. May Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shalom v'Yisrael, Erev HaShabbat, Vatzov et HaShabbat, V'Torah V'Mitzvot. Before we move in to the Amidah, I was reminded of a reading that relates what prayer means to me and everything that has to do with the Jewish tradition together. It has to do with peace. A lot of the Amidah is about peace. There are a lot of blessings as part of it, but the final blessing is a prayer for peace. And so here's a reading that I want to offer in preparation for our personal prayers. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Amen. We'll begin the Amidah on page 164. We'll do the first three blessings together, and we'll continue silently with the prayers on the page, or the prayers on our hearts, until page 180. Please rise as we are able. Adonai Tzevot Chazita, Ufiach Yitzhak Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Adonai, Eloheinu, 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 Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. I wanted to start with a song. I'll do the first part, and you'll do the second part. Sounds good?
Sounds good.
Ilu Hotzianu mi Mitzrayim, Hotzianu mi Mitzrayim. All right, we're all set. The first Pesach Seder I can remember was at my grandparents' home. Growing up, my brothers and I had spent our spring breaks at my mother's side of the family at their house in Palm Springs, and our days were consumed with swimming in the pool and rollerblading and playing outside. And Pesach also coincidentally coincided with spring break as well. So often we would spend one evening as an entire family gathering for the Seder. My uncle would lead the Seder, reading the Haggadah, and then together we would eat matzo ball soup, and we would tell stories of the 10 plagues. Following the meal, as a child, and sometimes as an adult, I was seldom engaged, because it seemed like the only task left was to drink more wine. And so, naturally, a series of questions developed. Why precisely 4 cups of wine? Who decreed this order? What is the meaning behind this ritual? Am I, as a Reformed Jew, supposed to drink these cups? Can I drink less? Can I drink more? Early rabbinic authority approaches biblical scripture with a certain set of assumptions and goals and methods. In part, the rabbis expound upon Torah with early literary criticism, attempting to understand the text as a unified whole. The rabbis specifically attempt to decipher Torah by means of clarifying the theological motives and ideas of the authors, and by clarifying its teachings, extracting the grammar and the vocabulary behind every single pasuk, every single phrase, and every single word. So what makes rabbinic interpretation distinct? The rabbis offer a historical and academic methodology for scrutinizing Torah that can create a value system rooted in ethics. Arguably, it's this ethics system that transcends time and space. In this week's Parshat Va'era, meaning "and I appeared," can certainly be analyzed from a rabbinic perspective. The book of Exodus begins by recounting the descendants of Jacob, the children of Israel, who were far too many and numerous for the Egyptian kingdom. Pharaoh then declares the Israelite people as a threat, therefore enslaving the Israelite people as a whole. It is only then Moses is born, placed into a basket in the Nile, floated down the river, and found by the daughter of Pharaoh to then be raised as her son. Moses, with a moral intuition, more closely identifying with his own people, decides to defend an Israelite and kill an Egyptian. That's great. So, only then, he flees, and he has no home, he has no people, and he's left alone. Then all of a sudden, Moses returns to Pharaoh upon meeting God at the burning bush, and he says, "Let my people go." Awesome. But Pharaoh says, no way. As the Israelite people descend to their depths of suffering, God calls out to Moses and says, "I am God. I shall free you from the labors of Egypt and deliver you from their bondage. I shall redeem you with an outstretched limb and through great judgments. I shall take you to be my people, and I will be your God, and you shall know that I am your God, who freed you from the labors of Egypt. I shall bring you into the land which I swore to give to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and I shall grant it to you as a heritage." That is the onset of our Passover Seder, that happens this week. 11th century French rabbinic commentator Rashi believes that God has initiated a covenant with the Jewish people in Genesis, and it is upon God to continue fulfilling that covenant in Exodus. Rashi believes that this is why we retell this story of Pesach year after year. And the rabbis of the Talmud, even more so, believe that the 4 cups of wine for the Passover Seder are derived directly from this week's Parsha. It says, "From where do we know to drink the 4 cups of wine in the Talmud?" Rabbi Yochanan said, corresponding to the 4 expressions of salvation. "And I will bring you out, and I will rescue you, and I will save you, and I will take you." Interestingly enough, the above verses introduce the story of the Jewish people's exodus from Egypt, framing redemption into not 4 verbs, but 6. I shall free you, I shall deliver you, I shall redeem you, I shall take you, and I shall bring you, and I shall grant you. Rabbi Yochanan's evaluation of the requirement of drinking 4 cups of wine relies only upon a certain set of verses, including a certain number of verbs. However, it's evident that there's another verse afterward that's absent. So why are there not 6 cups of wine? What's the nature of this discrepancy?
Everybody would get slaughtered.
We'll save that. The rabbis of the past 2 millennia have emblematically so engaged in what is called machloket, which is a Hebrew word meaning a dispute, or a difference of opinion, or a disagreement. Rabbeinu Bachya of the 14th century believes that while we drink the 4 cups of wine corresponding to these 4 stages of redemption, we ignore the latter 2. Interesting. On the other hand, select modern-day rabbis believe that we should compensate with 2 more glasses. So what is the point of all this? And why does it matter to us as Jews connected to Reform institutions? If the rabbis and the Jewish people have struggled to agree on a certain set of customs and rituals and prayers for 2,000 years, it is then upon us, as Reformed Jews, to continue the search for newfound meaning and interpretation within rabbinic text. If the heritage of the Jewish people is embedded in this scripture, I will bring you, I will rescue you, I will save you, and I will take you. And the element of machloket, or disputes, or differences of opinions, is essential to the Jewish tradition, then perhaps it's upon us to engage in this rich study of Jewish practice and follow those practices which strengthen our personal relationships with one another, with ourselves, and with God in ways that we find meaningful and fulfilling. If there is an interpretation with which to support the argument for a 5th cup of wine, then go for it.
And don't drive.
If we as Reformed Jews have the opportunity to interpret in ways that have meaning for us, then we need to go for it. We need to analyze and interpret and live Torah in ways that are meaningful for us, and in ways that we can read, in ways that make sense for us and for our collective history. So as we sit down to our Seder tables on this upcoming Passover, may we remember to be challenged to engage with our ancient tradition in the ways that the rabbis did. They disagreed with one another, and they pushed the boundaries of how traditions seem to appear. And they occupied themselves with text in ways that they found meaning, and they shared the Jewish tradition with members of their homes and members of their families. So this 2019, let's do that. Shabbat Shalom. We'll continue on page 109. We'll continue on page 109. Mi Sheberach L'Cholim. This is a prayer for those who are in need of healing. So if you are thinking of someone who needs a little boost, who needs a prayer, who needs a song, please feel free to say their name out loud or in your heart as my eyes meet yours.
Gary Wise. Helen Hutchinson. Cal Cashew.
Phyllis Schubel, Logan Porter. Jim Hendrickson. Susie and Liz Walsh.
We'll continue with the Mi Sheberach L'Cholim on page 109 together. Mi take this time now to, for the sake of time, we're going to have anyone with a birthday or an anniversary in the month of January, if you are able to please rise so we can acknowledge you. And I would love to go around quickly and have the opportunity to say either what number anniversary this is for you, or when your birthday is, or
And how old you are.
right.
Ready, set, go.
Ready, set, go.
January 14th, our wedding anniversary, and we don't remember when we got married, but it was sort of like the end of the 70s. So it's 44 or 45.
Thank you.
January 14th.
Amazing.
Yeah.
January 14th.
Wow, Alma's own birthday.
My birthday is January 12th.
Amazing. So together, for everyone who has a birthday or anniversary, we'll say a Shehachianu because this only happens once a year. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehachianu v'kiyamanu v'higimanu l'zman ha'aseh. Amen. We'll continue. Does anyone have any announcements for programming, whatnot?
Torah study tomorrow
Torah study tomorrow morning, 10 a.m.
at Rivendell.
at Rivendell.
Chat Sunday morning at 10:30.
Chat Sunday morning.
Huh?
10:15, Lenny sent it out, 10:15, Sunday, 10:15.
And the topic is?
And the topic is the Sephardic diaspora, the Spanish Inquisition, its brags, and its riches. We hope to see you then.
Hurry up and read.
It'll be very interactive. It'll be a little different from some of the previous chats. It'll be more roundtable. We'll be doing some activities. It'll be interesting.
We're not going to like torture.
No, not yet. And we have an oneg. Thank you to Marcy and to Scott and Heather. So we'll see you at the oneg afterward. We'll turn to page 586 in our Siddurim for Aleinu, and we'll continue. Please rise as we are able. 586. Please be seated. There are stars up above. So far away, we only see their light long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. As we turn our thoughts to those who are no longer with us physically, but continue to be lights that guide us, continue to be the ways that we remember, we think of those who have died in this year, in this time of the season, in years past, in the past year. We remember Harold Schreck, Joyce Waxman Fassman, the Norma Webb, Alfred Alberts, Mariana Mickey Luxemburg, Andrew Francis Deming, Constance Silverstein, Jacob Yeager, Edith Rosing, Isidore Goldberg, Jenny Schneider, Joanne Berman, Ben Jacobson, David Richmond, Rose Jacobson. We take all of their names into our hearts, and any other names that you are thinking of, please feel free to share out loud as my eyes meet yours.
Larry Good.
Louise Cohen.
Jeff Harvey.
Sir Israel Getman, my sister, Grace Lewis, my mother.
Israel, please.
My grandmother, Pearl Springwood.
We take all of those names said and unsaid, and we turn to page 598 for the Mourner's Kaddish. Please rise as we are able. Yitzkadal, Yitzkadash, Yitzkadash, Yalmaz, Yitvach, Yitzked, Yalech, Yitzked, V'chayechon, Yomechon, V'chayechon, Beit Yisrael, V'agala, V'zman, Karim, V'imru, Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba, V'varach, Le'alam, Amen, Amen. V'varach, V'yishkavach, V'yitzvahar, V'yitchoman, V'yitnaseh, V'yitzadar, V'yitzaleh, V'yitzalach, Shmei, V'yishav, V'yitzru, Le'elan, Mikol, V'yirchata, V'shirata, Tushkavata, V'nechmata, V'amirai, V'aman, V'imru, Amen. Yehi Shlamor, Rabba, Mishamaya, V'chayim, Aleinu, V'alkol, Yisrael, V'imru, Amen. Oseh Shalom, Yirumah, Yaseh Shalom, Aleinu, V'alkol, Yisrael, V'imru, Amen. We say, Zichronam Livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. Please be seated. I would like to thank everyone on the board who helped communicate and put everything together, from people who came early to set up the beautiful ark to those who will stay late to help clean up the oneg. I want to thank Natalie. I want to thank Brooke, who's not here with us right now, and Marty in particular, among everyone else who helped. And especially the back and forth. I know I've emailed some of you back and forth, and I'm really, really grateful that we can stay in constant communication and continue to build our community as we do today. So we'll end with Hine Matov, how good it is to be together. Hine Matov Umanayim Shebenayim Gam Yachad. 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 How good it is to sit together with one another. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.